They picked up the pace. The bike creaked with every turn of the wheels. Above them, nothing but a bleeding sunset sky. The wind had gone still. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath, waiting for a shot. And then it came. A burst of gunfire. Sudden, sharp, and slicing the air behind them like a slap to the back of the head. Short, too close. John shoved Mark hard. Instinct took over. Mark dropped flat. The bike skidded off to the side. John dove into the grass, rolled left, and only then realized they were wide open. No trees, no cover, no chances. Back! Behind us! Mark yelled, crawling. It's him! It's the hunter! Move! John snapped. Head for the edge. Take the bike and go. What about you? Just go. A second burst ripped through the grass, closer this time, and John knew it was personal. Not aimed at Mark, not the bike, only him. While Mark crawled and puffed and dragged the bike, John rolled to the side, yanked off his pack, unscrewed the suppressor, and stuffed it into the bag. He left the bag behind, dropped the weight, became a ghost in the weeds. All he had now was the pistol. 27 rounds. He crept toward a small rise, peeked over, and saw him. The hunter. Black armor, half-face helmet, compact build, steady steps, a rifle slung across his back. He wasn't rushing. He was tracking. Deliberate, focused. He's here for me, John whispered. Mark was yelling something in the distance, distorted by the wind. John looked back. Mark was on the bike now, pedaling. Slow but moving. Another shot rang out. John turned. The hunter had stopped. Aimed. Lined up the shot, square, at Mark's back. John fired first. Missed, but it threw the hunter off. He flinched, stumbled to one knee. Mark broke through, and vanished into the horizon. Good, John breathed. Now the hunter knew exactly where he was. Another burst tore into the earth beside him. John hit the dirt hard and started crawling, inch by inch, toward the dark patch of forest on the left. Shade, cover, anything. He crawled, slow. Every blade of grass felt like a razor. Sweat stung his eyes, his arms trembled, his legs burned. The sun was almost gone. The hunter didn't fire again, and that scared John more than anything. The trees, they were close now. He lunged in short bursts, breathing like an animal, crashing into the first layer of brush, collapsing at the base of a tree. He didn't move for a full minute, still alive, for now. Once the sun disappeared completely, John stood. No suppressor, no spare rounds, no food. He pulled out the GPS. 3 kilometers to Zone 3. Only one entrance. If the hunter went that way, they'd meet again. But there was no other choice. Guess I'll see you there, he muttered into the dark. And started walking toward the wall. 2:00 a.m. The world felt like it had slipped into a coma. No screams, no rustling, not even the buzz of cicadas. John lay in the tall grass, 500 meters from the gate to Zone 3, gripped by the sense that this silence could only mean one thing, a trap. He looked down at his hands, scraped, streaked with dried blood, then up at the wall. 40 minutes crawl, maybe. No point in waiting. If someone had set up an ambush here, it was already working. He filled his pockets with stones and started crawling. At about 30 meters from the gate, he stopped again, scanned the area. No real cover. The trap, if there was one, was likely on the other side. He tossed a stone, left, toward the gate. Seconds later, a beam of light sliced through the dark from the right. Narrow, deliberate, surgically precise. So the hunter was on the right flank. John crawled that way, hugging the wall, avoiding even the smallest branch. At this range, a single crack could get him killed. He didn't know exactly where the hunter was, but he knew this. They were on the same side of the wall. Literally, only concrete separated them. A chill crawled down his spine. His muscles shook from tension and hunger, but it was his brain that scared him more. Slowed reflexes, sluggish thoughts. Everything felt fuzzy. He reached for the capsule, swallowed it. 2 minutes later, it hit like lightning. His nervous system lit up. His vision cleared. His breath evened. He was back. The predator. John grabbed another stone and hurled it through the gate, into Zone 3. Clack. A second. Then, a burst of light. Gunfire. He lunged forward. One movement, a dive. He hit the ground, rolled, and slid on his back straight through the gate. Mid-flight, he saw the hunter. Armor, helmet, tactical gear. John squeezed the trigger. 3 shots, straight at the head. The hunter dropped, then started to rise again. John jumped to his feet and fired 2 more rounds. Useless. The mask held. So he charged, slammed into him with his full weight, hands ripping at the rifle. The guy was dazed, maybe concussed, but still dangerous. 30 seconds of struggle. Then, John had the weapon. He aimed. Don't move, you're done. The hunter froze. Helmet off, slowly. He hesitated, then raised his hands and started unfastening the straps. The guy looked about 30, rich, clearly, soft skin, like he got nightly facials before bed. What's your name? Edward, he rasped. Listen, Edward, I don't want to kill you. You're a sick bastard for choosing this kind of game, but whatever. Where's your base? Edward looked genuinely surprised. Yeah, John continued. I know you've got hidden bases. I turned your buddy's station in Zone 1 into his damn tomb. Silence. All right then. Strip, jacket, vest, shirt. John raised the rifle. Only then did Edward start undressing. Remember where your base is yet? Think hard. You're running out of chances. Far. Center of the zone. About 80 kilometers from here. Not great. You've been tracking us. You know where we are? My GPS gives updates every 30 minutes. Tracks runners within a 10-kilometer radius. Got it. What about transport? They gave me a bike, lost it on day 1. I got a little too into the hunt, wasn't watching my stuff. Of course you did. John lowered the rifle slightly. Well, Edward, this was a fun little chat. You're free to head back to base. Edward hesitated, but got up and started walking along the wall toward the exit. John kept the rifle on him. Even stripped down, Edward was still a risk. He paused at the threshold. Are you going to kill me? Someone else will. You're a runner now. Enjoy the ride. Run. Edward bolted. Bare-chested, still in military pants. He'd make one hell of a target. But John didn't care. In this gear, he was no longer prey. He was the hunter. The first sensation was power. It flooded his limbs. He felt invincible. Adrenaline still burned through him, his mind razor-sharp. He walked deeper into Zone 3. He felt dangerous. 20 minutes later, it all shut off, like someone flipped a switch. His legs went rubber. His heart pounded in his ears. His head went heavy. He barely made it to a cluster of bushes. Collapsed. Blackout. The first 5 kilometers went by in a blur, and then my navigator went dark. The satellites went silent. The map froze. No bars, no signal. Perfect, I thought. Now I'm walking blind. Either a glitch, or new rules, or maybe a jammer. If that's the case, the source has to be nearby. I tightened my grip on the rifle, flipped off the safety, and kept moving. About half a kilometer later, I found a runner's corpse at the base of a pine. I approached without hurrying. 2 arrows stuck in his legs, a third pinned straight through the skull. A cruel joke from someone who enjoyed their work. Another psychopath, I thought. Looks like the hunter in this zone doesn't tolerate noise. This swampy forest was made for quiet, almost bloodless kills. A kilometer on, I spotted 3 runners. They saw me and bolted in different directions. Camouflage works, I noted. At their camp, there was no transport, just an empty supply chest. I didn't want to wander deeper into the woods, so I followed the tree line. Here and there I passed old fire pits. Dried blood darkened the ground nearby. The place felt like a slaughterhouse. Drones haul the bodies away each morning, but the stains remain. How many people die here every day? Over the next few hours, I found 3 more chests, all looted. No more runners in sight. Those 3 must have warned the others the hunter was near. I slept through the 4 a.m. supply drop. Tomorrow, I'll need to stay alert. No sleep. I've already crossed 50 kilometers of Zone 3. Is this really going to be the quietest zone? 2 hours till dusk. Time to find shelter. GPS was still dead. Hopefully I wasn't walking in circles. I remembered the layout. There's a large lake near the center. If I reach it tomorrow, I'll know I'm on track. I veered deeper into the forest. Even there, I didn't feel safe. Scattered between the trees were single-person huts. Abandoned, maybe, or maybe their owners were coming back. This time, I chose a tree. There's less gunfire in this zone. Blades are the real danger. I found a wide old oak, perfect for nesting. Its crown could probably support a full cabin. 6:47 p.m. The exhaustion of all these days hit me like a wave. I lay across 2 sturdy branches, and sleep swallowed me instantly. Where was Mark? I didn't find his body. That meant he either fell before the 4 a.m. drop, or made it through, and is already somewhere in Zone 4. The thought flickered, then faded. The night took me. I woke to the sharp crack of breaking branches, cracked one eye open. 3 of them were moving below. One held a makeshift spear, a knife duct-taped to a hazelwood pole. The other 2 were empty-handed, or more likely their weapons were hidden under their jackets. I drew my pistol and leveled it at the one starting to climb. They froze. Didn't expect me to wake that fast, but fear clearly wasn't their thing. Not if they were willing to mess with a hunter. "Don't move," I said flatly. 5 seconds, then I shoot. I didn't even get to 2. An arrow hissed through the air and hit with a wet, heavy thunk, like a bat to a melon. The one with the spear slumped into the grass, an arrow through his skull. He was dead before he even realized it. The other 2 scattered like a reflex, like they were racing each other to vanish into the underbrush. Shit, the hunter's here. With aim like that, he could take me out just as easily. If I so much as shift wrong. That meant one thing. I had to fight. I pressed my back to the trunk, choosing the thickest branches to avoid showing silhouette, clicked the safety off the rifle and froze. Leaves whispered in the dark, masking any steps. 5 minutes passed. 10. GPS had long gone dead. I'd lost all sense of time. Just flies, fat and careless, swarming the corpse below. That sweet metallic rot crept into the air. 4 in the morning. The sky was getting lighter. Still no sign of the hunter. Then, voices. Male. Relaxed. Just 2 runners chatting about container drops, which should have refreshed soon. They strolled 5 steps from my tree and vanished between the trunks, not even looking up. Either the hunter left, or he's napping. Why pass up 2 easy targets for some hidden guy in a tree? It didn't make sense. Once their footsteps faded, I dropped my backpack, climbed down, heart hammering against my ribs, snatched my gear and jogged, away from the way the runners had gone. The hunter didn't show. The woods, swampy and silent, pressed against my temples like invisible hands. I kept running, panic rising in my chest. Too many people around, and death here walks barefoot and silent. 3 more kilometers behind me. The trail opened up to a long-awaited landmark, a sheet of steel-blue water shimmering between the pines, the lake at the heart of Zone 3. I was still on the right path. Circle around it, find a place to crash on the south shore. By morning, I'd be at the edge of Zone 4. But peace was out of the question. The moment I veered onto the lakeside trail, I spotted a camp on the far peninsula. Maybe 10 people, smoke curling from a fire, movement everywhere. It looked normal. Like the season of silent death wasn't raging all around them. Maybe they had a bike, I thought. I slid the tube from my back, assembled the optic, and crawled into a bush to scope them out. 3 had pistols. The rest carried pipes, bats, makeshift clubs. A ragtag army, but even improvised weapons are trouble when you're outgunned at close range. I adjusted my grip on the rifle, elbows sunk into damp moss, and called out, "Drop your weapons!" Voices fell silent. Figures ducked behind logs and fences. Tension stretched out like wire. "I need transportation," I shouted, keeping my tone steady. "Give it up, and I'll leave." "Go to hell," someone barked from behind a barrel. Interesting. So they did have transport. "I don't want bloodshed," I continued. "Walk away and leave everything as it is." "This is our camp," a big bearded guy yelled, definitely the leader. "We're not going anywhere." His sentence ended in a hiss. An arrow sank into his chest just under the collarbone, and he collapsed like someone had pulled a plug. Gunfire exploded. Bullets ripped through the air, chewing up dead wood above my head. Good thing I was lying in a shallow dip. Dry clay soaked up the rounds meant for me. People screamed and scattered, dropping packs, diving for cover. And me? I just clenched my teeth. Him again. The hunter, trailing me step for step, tossing me new scenes like props in a play. He could have killed me a dozen times by now, so this was a game. I pressed into the rifle stock and didn't move. If I so much as peeked up, I'd take an arrow right through retratateur. Enrique? Or Shurache? Or train? Fisson. Freeze detertrenist. Ahead, thudding footsteps, branches cracking, metal clinking. The camp dissolved like a kicked anthill, but on that same right-hand side, complete silence. That's where he was, the conductor of this chaos, cloaked in the dark. I scanned the lake shore. About 1.5 kilometers down stood an old boathouse, half-collapsed roof, walls eaten by reeds. Maybe there were oars left, maybe even a boat, if I could reach it. 10 minutes passed, or maybe an hour. Gunfire stopped. All that remained in camp were choking gasps, soft sobs, and the crackle of dying flames. I inhaled slowly. My heart was hammering so hard the scope trembled. Was I getting out of this alive, or was this the end? No answer, just the cold of the sunset wind brushing across the lake, and the hunter's shadow somewhere in the blackness of the shoreline trees. There were no choices left, only risk. I crawled backward, slowly scraping my way out of the clay hollow. Every time a branch cracked under me, I froze, bracing for a punishing arrow. But the forest held its breath. 15 meters, 20, 50. I rose to my knees, and pushing my tired muscles to cooperate, picked up the pace. Another 50 meters, and I broke into a full sprint, my breath exploding like drum beats of a personal war march. Still no arrows. But the sense of being watched clung to my back like a wet cloak. He'd probably been watching me since I entered Zone 3, saw me take down the sentry in Zone 2, climb a tree, fall asleep. 100 chances to kill me, and not a single shot. He's playing, teasing, pushing me just far enough off balance so I flinch at every rustle and scan the trees more than I blink. Maybe he wants me to get close to Zone 4, to taste hope, then cut me down a step before safety. Well, the plan's working. I jumped at every damn bush, GPS still dead, and I still had to loop around the lake. Without slowing down, I burst onto an old forest trail. My gut told me it would lead back to the water. It did. 10 minutes later, I caught the silver flash of open lake through the trees. I slowed to a walk, gripped my rifle, and stepped toward the shore. That camp, a dozen people strong, was still somewhere to the left, maybe 200 meters out. I headed right, hugging the edge, eager to leave that cursed basin behind. I'd barely taken a dozen steps when a branch cracked to my right. My finger curled on the trigger. I almost emptied the whole mag, but didn't. Curled in the bushes was a runner, trembling with knees hugged tight. Head down, shoulders quaking, a broken, hopeless shape. I walked past him without a word. Desperate people are unpredictable. The next 2 hours brought relative peace. Though strangely the shoreline was full of runners, soft laughter, hushed conversations, then sudden rustles and scattering feet like startled gulls. How do they manage to live this close to something that isn't a hunter, but a shadow? By noon, I had looped around the lake, cut across to the southeast point, and broke into a jog again. Somewhere up ahead, the border of Zone 4. Maybe there, I'd stop flinching at every sound. Or maybe that shadow that's been trailing me would finally make its move. But for now, I was still breathing, still moving. Every step snapping another invisible thread the hunter was trying to bind me to this forest. After an hour's hike, the woods opened up into a wide clearing bathed in dull afternoon light. Good. If the hunter really relies on a crossbow, then here, out in the open, I'd be a harder target. I moved through the tall grass, deliberately keeping distance from the dark tree line. About 40 minutes later, the GPS flickered to life. You are leaving the zone. Return within 10 minutes. A chill raced down my back. So I'd veered off course after all. The map was still blank, just a black screen. I took 2 steps back, and the warning vanished. Every step forward now could lead to either freedom, or right back into the deadly maze. I did the math. If I'd circled the lake too wide, I might not be on the eastern edge like I thought, but the western, going left, by instinct, toward Zone 4, could mean walking straight toward Zone 2 instead. So I decided to follow the invisible edge and hopefully run into another runner. Maybe I could get some directions. Time bled away. I jogged on, flashing past new GPS alerts. Another step, another warning. After an hour I ran into a tall chain-link fence, all too familiar from the transition between Zones 2 and 3. Panic buzzed in my head. Had I looped all the way back? The sky was darkening. I followed the fence until a distant floodlight flicked on atop a guard tower. Its beam swept both sides, Zone 3's field, and beyond the fence, Zone 4. My heart flared with hope. There was no tower between Zones 2 and 3. That meant the exit was close, just a couple kilometers. But the joy lasted less than a second. Something heavy and fast slammed into me. Pain lit up my left arm. An arrow. The game was over. He wouldn't let me go any further. Gritting my teeth, I raised my rifle and fired a full burst into the field. Stupid. But staying silent meant surrender. The floodlight spun toward the noise. It didn't reach the fence, but lit up the grass. And there, I saw him. Among the clean, even grass stood a lone bush. Too symmetrical, too still. Hunter's camouflage. I fired. Bullets tore the ground. The bush ducked. I ran. 14 rounds left. After 20 steps, I glanced back. The dark shape was rising to one knee, raising the crossbow. I dropped low, fired a burst. A sharp hiss. An arrow whizzed past my cheek. Run! The floodlight followed, cutting shapes from the night with each shot I took. Half a kilometer to the gate. I looked back. No one there. My heart jumped. He was gone. Terror rushed up like a sob. I fired into the dark. And an arrow punched into my gut, slamming me to the ground. Pain seared my brain, but the chest plate held. The tip hadn't pierced. Play dead? No. The next shot would be a headshot. I ripped the arrow free, dragged myself to my knees, grimaced, fired again. 100 meters to the gate. My arm was numb, blood howled in my ears. I staggered, shooting as I ran. 50 meters. Empty mag. Reloading now would be suicide. I slung the rifle and broke into a final frantic sprint. 5 meters from the opening, a new arrow struck between my shoulder blades, lifted me off my feet, and hurled me through the gate. A scream caught in my throat. I crawled, fingers clawing at the dirt, rolled over the threshold, collapsed against the Zone 4 wall, drew my pistol, and aimed at the dark gap behind me. How long I stayed there, I don't know. My heart slammed in my chest, then slowed, and finally quieted enough to let the night seep in again. Only then, trembling all over, did I let myself crawl into the shadows, away from the rustling dark behind me. If you made it all the way to the end, then you're exactly the kind of person I'm looking for. Hit that subscribe button It really means a lot to me. I hope I can keep bringing you more stories, to make you smile, or maybe, to scare you.